Hello, and welcome to another stream. We're going to try some new things today. In case anyone wishes to pop in the chat, I tried to change the font and style of the chat so it's more visible, maybe, I hope. Hello, it's Thursday night, and I'm Isaac Anzu. And I just watched a very, very good show. It's called Goku Shufudo, which means the way of the house husband. And it is about a Yakuza man, a gangster from Japan, who has retired and is happily married and is a stay-at-home husband. And it's very funny. Also, the main character, here, I'll bring up a picture of him. The main character is, I don't know, I think he's pretty hot. Look at that. It's a good picture. Of the pictures of him, that's a good one. But that's from the manga. The interesting thing is that the anime is done in more of a dramatic slideshow kind of style. There's not as much animation, just kind of picking single impactful moments to kind of slide together in the same way that one might, I don't know, slide pictures around. But I think it works for the style. It's very old school and almost it feels Yakuza, which I didn't know there was a Yakuza feeling, but there definitely is. The timing is very good. The scenes are put together well. It's very funny. The manga is also incredibly funny. And I think some of the detail that comes across in the manga adds to the humor, particularly people's reaction faces. Just very, very funny. So I went on Reddit and looked up people's opinions about it. And of course, they were upset about the simple animation style. And you know, I can understand that. There's a lot of really high quality animation coming out right now, like Attack on Titan and all sorts of stuff. But it's just a different style. And I think, honestly, it's a pretty good style. Definitely fits the theme and pacing of the show. Right. Well, that's just what I've been watching recently. But today, I want to get into learning profanity in different languages. So I speak English fluently and the monster language as well. And I'm learning Japanese, but I haven't learned any profanity yet. But I thought, the internet's a big place. Let's find some words that we should avoid. And we'll make sure to avoid them. So I came up with this idea by just scrolling on through Facebook and finding another YouTuber on the front page. So I checked it out and I learned that there is Cantonese profanity, which led me down a little rabbit hole here. Here are the Cantonese 5 vulgar words, which are censored on Hong Kong broadcast television. And they have their own characters, and they have history, which is incredible. A hole at the bottom of the body. That is a very literal way to describe that word. So apparently in Hong Kong, there are specific bylaws that forbid the usage of profanity in public. Which I suppose is fine for them if that's what they want to do. But I was more interested in the 7 dirty words. These come from a list. Apparently, these are the worst words. American comedian George Carlin first listed in his 1972 7 words you can never say on television. And here are the words. This was in 1972, though. I think that they've it's been updated since then. Here's a quote from George Carlin. I don't know that there was a eureka moment or anything like that. On these other things, we get into the field of hypocrisy, where you really cannot pin down what these rules they want to enforce are. It's just impossible to say this is a blanket rule. It's okay. He's talking about the Federal Communications Commission. So there's he was arrested for performing the routine in 72. Interesting. Pacifica Station broadcast this version of the routine uncensored October 30th of 1973. So it took him a full year before he could say these 7 words. I did mark this stream not for children. Can I say them? I don't know. Perhaps. These are the 7 worst words. If I was going to get pinged by anyone, these would be the words that I would get pinged for. Now, I'm interested in, did those change? In December 2003, is this just in Congress? Congress introduced a bill that was not enacted to cover these words. The FCC obscenity guides do not apply to non-broadcast media such as cable television, satellite TV, or satellite radio. Interesting. Self-regulation by many basic cable networks is undertaken by Standards and Practices Department that self-censor their programming because of the pressure put on them by advertisers. All of the words on Carlin's list have come into common usage in many made-for-cable series and film productions. Beautiful. So really, they wanted to advertise on their channel, and interesting. So the list isn't even, it's not standard, as he says. It's not a blanket rule. Here he says, these words have no power. We give them this power by refusing to be free and easy with them. We give them great power over us. They really, in themselves, have no power. It's the thrust of the sentence that makes them either good or bad. Advice to take to heart, perhaps. So if I was to perhaps call someone by one of these words, that would be very rude and bad. But if I was to say the 7 dirty words from George Carlin's 1972 monologue are, in the order Carlin listed them, shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits. That's just an informative sentence. Okay. We've learned a valuable lesson about profanity. It's okay to talk about profanity, but it's not okay to call people profane things. Let's learn more about profanity. It's a socially offensive use of language, which may also be called cursing, cussing, or swearing. Cuss words, curse words, swear words, bad words, dirty words, or expletives. Much like profanity itself, there are many words for profanity. Oh, but this is my favorite one. I've heard this before. When you use symbols in cartoons to replace profanity, they're called Grolixes. The lexicon of Kamakana. So here, Grolixes are typographical symbols standing in for profanities. But here's a very interesting article that we just stumbled upon. American cartoonist Mort Walker in 1980 invented a set of international symbols after researching cartoons around the world. It looks like there's quite a lot of them. The lexicon of Kamakana. Let's see some interesting ones. Agitrons, like agitate, agitrons. Wiggly lines around a shaking object or character. Blurgits or swaloops. Curved lines preceding or trailing after a character's moving limbs. So if you move your arms and legs around, you are creating blurgits or swaloops. Briffits are clouds of dust that hang in the wake of a swiftly departing character or object. I've seen that one too. A briffit. Interesting. Kind of like a brief exit. Briffit. Dites, heights, and vites. Straight lines drawn across flat, clear, and reflective surfaces such as windows and mirrors. The first letter indicates direction, diagonal, horizontal, and vertical, respectively. Heights may also be used trailing after something moving with great speed. So they're kind of shine lines. Like bright. They're bright and they're diagonal, horizontal, or vertical. Imanta. Imanta? Imanta? Emanate? Emanata. 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 Lines drawn around the head to indicate shock or surprise. Grolixes, we know that one. An endotherm, wavy rising lines to use to represent steam or heat. A leukoflex, a shiny spot on the surface of something depicted as a four-paned window shape. Ah, the window-shaped shine. Isn't the Microsoft logo kind of based on that? I think so. Pludes, flying sweat droplets that appear around a character's head when working hard or stressed. Oh, is that the same as the anime sweat drop? I think probably. I didn't know that was called a plude. Quimps, a special example of the Grolix, a symbol representing the planet Saturn. I've never seen that one before. Why Saturn? I'm sure that this article on the atmosphere and composition, orbit, and rotation of Saturn will not provide insight into why a quimp is specifically the shape of Saturn. Solrads, radiating lines drawn from something luminous like a light bulb or the sun. Makes perfect sense. And squeens. Squeens, little starbursts or circles that signify intoxication, dizziness, or sickness. I have to say, squeens is probably my favorite one after blurgets. Squeens, blurgets. Why is quimps just Saturn? Let's hear some other ones. White hope, Sphericasia, Vatatron. I can guess what a Vatatron is. It's a machine that is maybe not very specific. Spurls, Oculama, Crottles, Maledicta balloons, Farkles, Duzex, Staggeration, Boozex, Digitrons, Niddles, Waftaroms, and Jarns or Yarns. I know we started on profanity, but honestly, these sound more like profanity than actual profanity. Glossary. Oh. Okay, so manga iconography. Is a plude the same thing as the sweat drop in manga? Oh, Marmalade Boy. I have not read that one, but I hear it is a very classic rom-com, Marmalade Boy. All right. Panel characteristics. Facial features. Eyes, mouth, nose, head and face. Hair colors. Oh. Hair colors have a lot of meanings. Let's see. Purple hair, royalty. I've seen a lot of well, that is a picture. Is there just black, white? Okay, I want to see the pictures of all the colors. What have they chosen? They've chosen a jackal for black. They've chosen a beluga whale for white, which that is just the happiest whale they could have chosen. Blue is the sea and the sky. Purple. It's not a very purple picture. Well, okay, here's a lot of purple pictures. Why is this? I guess they're wearing purple. It looks a little more red to me. Is there even any purple in this picture? Maybe on this guy's hat, or in these. Those are kind of dark blue. Purple. A bunch of old people. Red, strawberries, a classic. I hope they have oranges for orange. Pink is a ring. Is that a famous diamond? No, it's a sapphire. A pink sapphire. Orange. Not an orange. Where is that? Delicate Arch in Arches National Park, Utah. Now here's a question. How many arches are in Arches National Park? Is there not a Wikipedia page for Arches of Arches National Park? Arches National Park. How many arches? More than 2,000 natural sandstone arches are located in the park. That's a lot of arches. Why are there so many arches? So it was covered by, it has salt beneath it, and it was covered by sediment, which mostly eroded away. Salt domes were thrust up through the ground. Then erosion removed the younger rock layers. Wind and water cleaned up the arches, and now you just have 2,000 arches. That's a pretty cool arch, though. So this used to be a salt bubble thrust through the ground. You know, it's kind of cool to look back at geological history like this, because it's hard to think of like a dome of salt thrusting through the ground, but obviously it happened, and it must have happened over such a long time. Wow, this is a very large picture. I wonder if it still tastes salty. But it's all kind of happening in slow motion around us, right? I mean, if you speed it up, everywhere is shaking and moving and erupting and changing. It's just, from our perspective, it's very, very slow. I guess if you had to pick one attribute that would make a geologist, it would be probably patience, or maybe the ability to see the big picture, or maybe a fondness of things that will happen before their lifetime and not finish until after their lifetime. Aw. In 1980, vandals attempted to use an abrasive kitchen cleaner to deface ancient petroglyphs in the park, prompting park officials to recruit physicist John F. Asmus, who specialized in using lasers to restore works of art, to use his technology to repair the damage. Asmus zapped the panel with intense light pulses and succeeded in removing most of the cleaner. Well, the vandals probably didn't see that one coming. They got these petroglyphs, which are images created by removing part of a rock surface. They tried to erode them with kitchen cleaner. And the scientific response from John F. Asmus was lasers. Excellent. Pioneering the use of lasers in art conservation. Wow. So this wasn't just a one-time thing, although it does mention his use of lasers to combat vandalism. That sounds like a straight out of a comic book. Using lasers to combat vandalism. John F. Asmus, but he's actually been doing it for a long time. Oh, his application of complex scientific devices to art enabled Asmus to work on many of the world's most famous cultural objects, including the Mona Lisa. In the 1980s, Asmus turned a personal fascination with the Mona Lisa into a 5-year project to recapture the painting's original vitality. So this guy loved the Mona Lisa so much that he took his beloved lasers to the Mona Lisa. Wild. Let's see. In 1978, Asmus uses laser technology to uncover artwork in the California State Capitol building that had been repeatedly painted over since a 1939 remodeling, ultimately removing 9 layers of paint to restore the original artwork. That's pretty cool. You know, I've seen those rocks that they have in certain schools, high schools and colleges, where they just paint over and over again, and they have the layers and layers of paint. They're pretty cool, and I like the idea that you could tear off a hunk of paint and you'd see all the layers of different things people have painted, and kind of get a sort of tree ring history of what everyone has painted. We've gotten very off track. The sweat drop. Profanity. We wanted to learn more about profanity. We went down a rabbit hole there. Profanity. In its older, more literal sense, profanity refers to a lack of respect for things that are to be held sacred, which implies anything inspiring or deserving of reverence. Oh, like profane, as well as behavior showing similar disrespect or causing religious offense. So from the word profane. Excellent. Yes, profanus. Outside the temple. You're either inside the temple or outside the temple. And we've already said some swear words on this stream, so we're outside the temple. Let's see. Profanity carried the meaning of either desecrating what is holy or with a secular purpose as early as the 1450s. So does that mean there was no profanity before the 1450s? There's got to be. Is there more history? What's the medieval era? What time period is the medieval era? Lasted from the 5th to the late 15th century. So actually 1450 kind of lines up with the end of that. But maybe this means that profanity was in common use in the medieval era, in the Middle Ages, and the temple. They were all outside the temple, and then many Bible verses speak against swearing. The Bible's older than that. So swearing must have been around at least before the Bible, if the Bible's mentioning swearing. Oh. Finnish profanity. All right, we're starting to get into some interesting stuff. Profanity in Finnish. So the most famous Finnish profanity word is perkele, which means evil spirit, or variation of the words goddamn in Finnish, and is a popular Finnish profanity. It is most likely the most internationally known Finnish curse word.
Perkele.
Perkele. It has a history of being used as a curse, a cry for the god for strength. Citation needed. Well, let's not take that too seriously then. Citation needed. In the webcomic Scandinavia and the World, Finland is depicted as a sullen, violent drunk who is largely mute, save for uttering the word perkele when things do not go his way. Oh, the 2019 video game Control. I just received this game from a friend. A Finnish janitor who is also hinted to be an enormously powerful supernatural entity. It's always the janitors, isn't it? Uses perkele as a crutch word when describing the weird events taking place in the Federal Bureau of Control. So we've learned one. So there's a Swedish band that just calls themselves Goddamn in Finnish. What are they like? Their sound has been described as punk with 70s and 80s heavy metal influences and elements of blues, jazz, and even classical music. Punk with heavy metal and a bunch of other stuff. That sounds pretty good. Despite their Swedish origin, perkele, the noun used for the band's name, is in fact a Finnish profanity. It looks like the lead vocalist was Finnish, and he wanted to be expressly vulgar. Interesting. I guess if you want to be expressly vulgar with your band, that's pretty punk. But let's see. They are no longer interested in trying to be punk. Well, they've been doing stuff for 27 years. So maybe it's hard to be punk for 27 years. Whew. It's hard to be angry for 27 years. All right. Wow. An amazing list of Finnish profanities. Can we get are there other profanity pages like this one? What a well-organized page. Look at this history. Look at this. Let's just pick one. I mean, perkele. We know that one. Let's pick a different one. Kusi. So similar connotation to piss. Kusi pa. The word pisa has drifted so far into everyday usage that in combined form, pisa poika, it refers specifically to the squirter on the windshield of cars. So that that thing that shoots cleaning fluid onto your windshield, if you go into Finland, you would call it a pissing boy. Foreign visitors have been amused by the product Super Piss for windshield wiper fluid. Yes, one bottle of Super Piss, please. Oh no. Somehow I thought that it might come to this, but I am laughing at foreign curse words. All right, we know all about perkele, who is apparently a god, named after a god, a thunder god. Oh, So it's a very flexible word because you can say perkele and just be angry about something, or you can roll and lengthen the R and say perkele, which honestly, I wish more expletives could be extended and yelled out into the stormy seas by rolling the R. Are there any good? Yeah, you'd be like, motherfucker. That would be. I feel like it'd be so much more impactful. I feel like it'd be so much more fun. I'm gonna start using perkele whenever. Well, let's read the Finnish black metal band Impaled Nazarene. That's a pretty extreme name. Named its 1994 Patriot album Sumoi Finland Perkele, and the more controversial M.A. Numinen, Mari Antero Numinen, released a 1971 album known as Perkele Lauluja Suomesta, or Perkele, Songs from Finland. Who's this guy? It said he's controversial. Avant-garde, underground, stirring controversy. Oh. He literally quoted a guidebook for newlywed couples, including advice on foreplay, to write one of his most controversial songs. You know, I guess when inspiration strikes, you take it. Numinen has taken part in over 30 films, either as actor, scriptwriter, composer, or cinematographer. Now, he's a musician, so I imagine a lot of those are composer credits. But it's cool to find, you know, artists branching out into other art forms. Anyway. In English, swear words and curse words like shit have a Germanic root, as likely does fuck, although damn and piss come from Old French and ultimately Latin. The more technical and polite alternatives are often Latin in origin, such as defecate or excrete, and fornicate or copulate. Okay. So more polite. So we don't want to study Latin profanity because it's all going to be very polite, scientific. But here we go. The word wanker is considered profane in Britain, but it dates only to the mid-20th century. That's interesting. It's a new curse word? Thank you, Wikipedia, for showing us the hand gesture to accompany this profanity. The terms wank and wanker originated in British slang during the late 19th and early 20th century. In modern usage, it is usually a general term of contempt rather than a commentary on sexual habits. Oh, somebody typed in the chat. My new chat. My new chat's format looks so much better. Look, there's a black outline to the text. I can actually read it. The rolling rrr, is it supposed to sound like rolling thunder? You know, what's the geography of Finland like? Is Finland... Climate. The whole of Finland lies in the boreal zone, characterized by warm summers and freezing winters. Well, that usually means that there's a lot of storms, right? Quarter of. Oh, they have a very dark. Oh, yeah. If you get to far north, then the sun does not set for 73 consecutive days during the summer and does not rise at all for 51 days during the winter. So you've got 2.5 months of daylight and then a month and a half of night. Wild. There's a whole article on the climate of Finland. Do they talk about wind? Storm, defined as at least one Finnish coastal station reporting at least 21 meters per second as a 10-minute average wind speed. I didn't know this. So apparently storms are defined by wind speed. Does that mean that wind, I guess, 19 days a year. So if you want to perkele in the midst of a rolling storm, you only get to do it 19 days a year. Hopefully that doesn't fall during the month and a half that it's dark, because I imagine leaving your house and going to the coast to yell perkele into the mists is not great when it's just totally dark out. Snow in Finland. Permanent snow cover time starts typically around Christmas in the southwestern corner, but before mid-November in most of Lapland. Lapland. Regions. Lapland. Okay, Lapland is the northest region, the northernmost region. The maximum snow depth is usually found around March. Wow. So that means sometime in November or December, snow starts falling. They have white Christmases. It was a dark and stormy night. That's the it was a dark and stormy night. That's the first lines of A Wrinkle in Time. Is that right? Yes, it is the opening line to the popular 1962 novel A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle. A Wrinkle in Time, an excellent book about dimensional travel. L'Engle biographer Leonard Marcus notes that, with a wink to the reader, she chose for the opening line of A Wrinkle in Time her most audaciously original work of fiction, that hoariest of cliches. The origin. It is the first phrase of the opening sentence of English novelist Edward Bulwer-Lytton's 1830 novel, Paul Clifford. Writer's Digest described this sentence as the literary poster child for bad story starters. Well, dear commenter, dear human, fortunately, you are not starting a story. You are simply posting a comment. If you went on to write a novel, then Writer's Digest would have words with you. On the other hand, the American Book Review ranked it as number 22 on best first lines from novel list. There's a best first lines of novels list. Is that still a American Book Reviews 100 best first lines from novels. Number 1, from Moby Dick, "Call me Ishmael." Number 2, from Pride and Prejudice. I've been meaning to read that. "It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife." Gravity's Rainbow, "A screaming comes across the sky." That's a pretty good line. 100 Years of Solitude, translated in 1967. Many years later, as he faced the firing squad, Colonel Aureliano Buendia was to remember that distant afternoon when his father took him to discover ice. Wow. That's a lot of information in a first sentence. Nabokov, "Lolita, light of my life, fire of my loins." God, that's also a lot of information in a totally different way. Tolstoy, Anna Karenina, translated in 1877. "Happy families are all alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way." I don't know if I completely agree with that, but certainly there are things that happy people do in families that are common among happy families, such as listening to each other and respecting each other and discussing things and trust and sort of things like that. Finnegan's Wake. Oh, is this the... We can go right from Finland to Finnegan's Wake. Easy, easy, easy. This is the stream of consciousness, right? Owing to the work's linguistic experiments, stream of consciousness writing style, literary allusions, free dream associations, and abandonment of narrative conventions, Finnegan's Wake remains largely unread by the general public, but still a famous book. And number 7 on the list of 100 best first lines from novels. River run past even atoms, from swerve of shore to bend of bay, brings us by a commodus vicus of recirculation back to Howth Castle and environs. 1984. It was a bright cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. Just enough information to tell you that this is not your ordinary clocks in your ordinary world. Charles Dickens, A Tale of Two Cities. Oh, this is a classic one. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light, it was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. That's very famous. Number 10, The Invisible Man. I am an invisible man. Sum it up. Sum it up, Ralph Ellison. Give us everything we need to know. 5 words. Miss Lonely Hearts. The Miss Lonely Hearts of the New York Post-Dispatch. Are you in trouble? Do you need advice? Write to Miss Lonely Hearts and she will help you. Sat at his desk and stared at a piece of white cardboard. That's a pretty good sentence. It makes me want to keep reading. I think that's a sign of a good first sentence. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. You don't know about me without you have read a book by the name of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, but that ain't no matter. Mark Twain. Classic. Breaking that fourth wall. Franz Kafka. The Trial. Someone must have slandered Joseph K. for one morning without having done anything truly wrong. He was arrested. This sounds like a revolutionary sort of novel. Might be interesting to read. If on a winter's night a traveler. You are about to begin reading Italo Calvino's new novel, If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. Oh, second wall break, right? Right. Second, fourth wall break. I guess breaking the fourth wall isn't good enough to put you in a top 10 spot, but it is good enough to get you in the top 20. Murphy by Samuel Beckett. The sun shone, having no alternative on the nothing new. This sounds like a very sort of Douglas Adams-y Hitchhiker's Guide sort of thing. Is Samuel Beckett like an Irish novelist, playwright, short story writer, theater director, poet, and literary translator? Beckett's idiosyncratic work, his personal work, his unique work, offers a bleak, tragicomic outlook on existence and experience, often coupled with black comedy and nonsense. It became increasingly minimalist in his later career, involving more aesthetic and linguistic experimentation. Oh. I think Oh, wow. Beckett assisted James Joyce in many various ways, one of which was research toward the book that became Finnegan's Wake. We've come back around. Beckett and Joyce, best friends, well, close confidants at least. I think I've heard or seen one of his plays. Oh, Waiting for Godot. That's Samuel Beckett. You know, that's a pretty good play. I didn't know that I was interested in Samuel Beckett, but maybe I'm interested in Samuel Beckett. Very cool. Well, you know, this is why I do this. I'm trying to learn more about human culture. If he has a kind of tragicomic style of humor, then maybe I will enjoy his works. We'll log that away in the old brain. We haven't gotten to number 22 yet, which is Paul Clifford, but let's keep going. J.D. Salinger's The Catcher in the Rye. If you really want to hear about it, the first thing you'll probably want to know is where I was born and what my lousy childhood was like, and how my parents were occupied and all that before they had me, and all that David Copperfield kind of crap, but I don't feel like going into it if you want to know the truth. I think that sums up the character. James Joyce, A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. Once upon a time, and a very good time it was, there was a moo cow coming down along the road, and this moo cow that was coming down along the road met a nice little boy named Baby Tucku. Why do these words sound more like profanity than actual profanity? And also, all cows are now moo cows. James Joyce, a prestigious author, said so. Ford Maddox Ford, The Good Soldier. This is the saddest story I have ever heard. Sure. Tristram Shandy. I wish either my father or my mother, or indeed both of them, as they were in duty both equally bound to it, had minded what they were about when they begot me. They had duly considered how much depended upon what they were then doing, that not only the production of a rational being was concerned in it, but that possibly the happy formation and temperature of his body, perhaps his genius, and the very cast of his mind. And for aught they knew to the contrary, even the fortunes of his whole house might take their turn from the humours and dispositions which were then uppermost. Had they duly weighed and considered all this, and proceeded accordingly, I am verily persuaded that I should have made quite a different figure in the world from that in which the reader is likely to see me. I think he's saying that if his parents had known he was going to grow up to be a very good writer, then they might have treated him differently, and thus his book would have been different. That's also kind of meta. But I don't know if Tristram Shandy is the one saying this or Lawrence Stern. Number 20. Whether I shall turn out to be the hero of my own life or whether that station will be held by anybody else, these pages must show. Charles Dickens, David Copperfield. This is all that David Copperfield kind of crap that J.D. Salinger didn't like. James Joyce, again, Joyce. Coming back to Joyce again. Ulysses. Stately, plump Buck Mulligan came from the stairhead, bearing a bowl of lather on which a mirror and razor lay crossed. I can see it. All right, here we are. Number 22. Edward George Bulwer Lytton. Paul Clifford, 1830. It was a dark and stormy night. The rain fell in torrents, except at occasional intervals, when it was checked by a violent gust of wind, which swept up the streets, for it is in London that our scene lies, rattling along the housetops and fiercely agitating the scanty flame of the lamps that struggled against the darkness. You know, pretty good opening lines. If if it hadn't been parodied so much. There's so many. Now I'm interested. Is Douglas Adams in this list? No. Adam. Just the one? Okay. Well, I like the opening of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, although I guess it's longer than just a line. What's number 100? The Red Badge of Courage. The cold passed reluctantly from the earth. The retiring fogs revealed an army stretched out on the hills, resting. Oh, that's a long one. Is number 95 the longest one? It looks like the longest one. Oh. We've totally left Profanity behind. Well, maybe we'll come back to this. Maybe not. There's so much. There's so much culture to learn about, and this is some real culture. But we will have to get back to that another day, as once again our time has come to a close. The good news today, I have finally figured out what was going on with the Twitter account. It was being locked because apparently somehow the Twitter algorithm realized that I'm not human, so they locked the account. But once I explained that, you know, I just need it for communicating with humans, they unlocked it. So the link is in the description if you'd like to follow me. I'll post about these streams and maybe other things that I'm thinking about. But I think that's all I have for now. So I have been Isaac Anzu, and this has been a stream about a lot of things. Apparently the first line of famous novels. That's where we got. And I will see you next time.